The Blacklist, hosted by James Spader, is a crime drama and thriller that has captivated audience for years and has always been filled with famous guest stars. Owing to the fact that the show is a favorite among many of these celebrities, today we're going to be looking at 5 of these guest stars who left a lasting impression. Stick around till the end to see them. Let's get started. At number 5 is the comedian Leslie Jones. We're going to start this list off with big-time superfan of the show who made it very clear publicly just how much she loved The Blacklist. Leslie Jones is a comedian who is probably most known for her work on SNL, but has appeared on other shows such as RuPaul's Drag Race and most recently had a role in Coming to America. That's the number 2 in this case, the sequel to the classic 80s film. She was once seen on a segment on the Late Night Show with Seth Meyers, where the host, that'd be Seth Meyers, for those unaware, played a clip showing Jones talking about how very much she adores the show and James Spader. In particular, even going so far as to suggest that she might adore him an unhealthy amount. She stated, quote, "James, if you're watching right now, I think my obsession for you might be a little unhealthy, but I love you. I love everything about you." End quote. Albeit a bit part, playing an unnamed character simply referred to as Citizen in the credits, during the season 3 episode of Lady Ambrosia. What do you know? Seems like dreams do really come true. That will turn out to be a bit of a theme for this. Blacklist seems to be one of those shows that famous people can't just get enough of. 4th in the world's most famous weatherman, Al Roker. And here's another prime example of a superfan getting to live the dream. Today's show's resident expert on weather, Al Roker, got the honor of appearing on The Blacklist, one of his favorite shows, as a means of celebrating the 150th episode, especially when he had James Spader as a guest on the Today Show before the airing of the show. Roker went on record to say that he was a huge fan of The Blacklist and of James Spader, and that whenever James went on Today, he'd always ask him if he wanted to do a guest spot. Roker just thought he was being nice at the time, but evidently, one of these days they followed up on that. And what do you know? He was able to get a guest spot on the season 7 episode titled Roy Kane. He said of it, quote, "Now here I am playing, wait for it, Al Roker. The mind boggles," end quote. Well, hey, whenever you need an Al Roker type to appear on your television show, who is better than the man himself, right? It's far from the first time. He's actually appeared as himself on several other shows, including Seinfeld, 30 Rock, and Will and Grace. It's always pretty notable though, because after all, the man has been gracing our airways since the mid-70s, and it was only a few years ago in 2018 on a December episode of the Today Show where he was honored for 40 years of service at NBC, even renaming the Today Plaza as the Rockefeller Plaza in his honor. At 68 years of age, Rocker still doesn't appear to be slowing down and may very well have plenty other cameos in the future, maybe even another appearance on The Blacklist someday. Still, so far, we've only been talking about minor cameos here, so let's get someone with a real role, and a reoccurring one at that. At number 3 is Nip and Tuck star Jolie Richardson. Richardson plays Cassandra Bianchi, a master thief type and former love interest of Raymond Reddington, who first appeared in the season 7 episode titled Cornelius Rock, and she was impressed enough that she was brought back in season 7 episode titled Red Models Inc. just this past year. Jolie was all too thrilled about working on the show, like most people, and had a lot of good things to say about her character. She told TV Insider, quote, "Cassandra is a cracking character who's a bit kick and working with James Spader was a really exciting concept," end quote. She noted that she had greatly admired Spader since her 20s. Keep in mind though, you'd never know by looking. She's 57 now. And she also made clear that the episode is very much about her and Spader's character Reddington. You might be wondering how they got such a talented actress on board, and for that, it's fair to say there's a little bit of luck at play. John Beckenkamp, writer and producer for The Blacklist, talked to Variety and said that they knew that there was going to be somebody from Red's past that they were going to bring back, and they'd have the chance to introduce to someone who they maybe had a relationship with, or at least very close to, specifically because of the ending, which showed her letting him go and suggesting that he stay with Liz. For this, he needed, quote, "When we started talking about people, Jolie was brought up very early on, and we were huge fans. We were lucky to get her. They felt like they had a real history together. It was earned," end quote. For number 2, it's none other than 80s icon Martha Plimpton. Martha Plimpton first came to fame for the 1985 film The Goonies, back when she was just 15 years old, playing Stephanie Steinbrenner. Not unlike Jolie Richardson, she's taken part in 2 episodes of The Blacklist and plays quite the memorable character, Dr. Shannon Fulton, something of a serial killer by proxy who convinced federal agents to help her hunt down and murder serial killers in the same manner that they set out with their own murders. What makes her stand out from the other members of The Blacklist is that due to this tie, she got plenty of dark secrets about many members of the FBI, something that she can easily lean on to get leverage if needed. This is something that Elizabeth Keen, played by Megan Boone, not only uncovered but found herself a bit drawn to, as well as developed more of a dark side to her character. When your guest star makes so much of an impression that they even darken the hearts of one of your main characters, it's fair to say that they belong high up on a list like this one. The list that comprises this, not the Blacklist. Although yes, for our top 3, they are one and the same. And for the top spot, who else but Nathan Lane? A show's 100th episode is always a major milestone, and one that is clearly cause for celebration, an excuse to do something special and go a bit bigger than normal. And for the Blacklist, that meant bringing in someone very special to be the villain of the episode. Enter Nathan Lane, one of the most prolific actors going today, with tons of roles in film, television, and Broadway to speak of, too many to really get into since we're pretty late in the video by now. Lane plays Abraham Stern, a character who comes from a family lineage of criminals and is devoted to seeking out a fortune that he believes is his birthright. He did inherit it in a will from his rather eccentric grandfather, but those hundreds of millions were of course stolen in and of themselves, being taken from the Federal Reserve. Unlikely, his father buried the fortune much like a pirate and hid a treasure map within 4 especially bronzed pennies. He then left the boy. Sadly, being a kid who knew no better at the time, he ended up spending the 4 pennies on candy before he got the letter explaining all of this. By the way, the name Abraham is an obviously cheeky reference to the fact that, well, you're probably aware of who this guy is on the penny. In an effort to find the pennies, Stern became a thief in his own right and used his position as a loan officer to get people to aid him. And wouldn't you know it, he ended up on the Blacklist as number 100. Isn't that a funny coincidence for the guy who strictly shows up in episode 100? John Bokenkamp told Variety that it was a super fun heist episode and said that it was incredible seeing Nathan and James go head to head. Producer John Eisendroth also noted that they didn't really like being too self-referential in the Blacklist, but they do have a storyline that very explicitly references an early episode. You gotta do callbacks for the 100th episode after all. And that is all the time we have for today's video. Did we miss anyone? No doubt we did. It's just meant to be a top 5 list after all, but by all means, let us know what your version of this list looks like. Who are your favorite Blacklist guest stars? Be sure to let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And until next time, thanks for watching.